What is your heart asking you to do? That fear is keeping the door closed on. Fear is a signpost towards our path of success. And many times we ignore our heart and pay tribute to fear. And then we sit and wonder, well, what happened? What's the reason it seemed to disappear? The way energy works is it comes to us. And if we are unavailable to open that door, inspiration, being in spirit, comes to us. And when we are unavailable to open that door, it goes and finds somebody else that will create with it and more. Hello and welcome to the Mindset Alchemy podcast. I'm your host, Janine, and I love helping you understand what energy is saying, what your heart is calling you to do, what inspiration, imagination, and instinct have to do with creating a life you love, rather than living one you despise or despair of, or even just say, what else is possible in, and then you allow fear to keep the door closed. Energy is a funny thing to work with. It responds to what our deepest feeling is rather than what our desire is. So when our desire is greater than that fear, guess what? We get to do it anyway. We are in a time of learning. Well, I've learned X, Y, and Z. What am I to keep? What am I to let go of? One of the things I work with personal leadership is helping you to clear that BS, the belief systems of other people, belief systems of when we were younger, when we were stressed, when we were in a place that was less than helpful. As we move and uplift our energy and start looking in within ourselves and saying, I see you, fear. Stop. We observe it, we see what the belief system is around it, we acknowledge it and thank it for being there. And then we get to release it and replace it with the courage, with the skills, with the competence, with the growing confidence, because we sometimes step forward less than confidently. And just by taking that step, we're able to step through that door of fear that is showing us to step onto that better path, better ways of doing things. And as we move along, we gain confidence. Sometimes we may lose a little bit of it as we explore different ways, different feelings. And then we tap into the inspiration within us and we allow ourselves to move forward. Janine, what do you mean by this? Well, for me, technology was a little bit scary. When I first started online, I started in the days of Periscope on Twitter, or what they call X now. I got to learn how to position the camera, what to do with it, how to work with it, how to upload it. I was afraid of it. What if I break something? And I learned, you know what? There's ways of fixing. Can you hear? Even the fear of it speaking in those days was so real that it's coming forward now. And when I then took my business online after my dad died, and I realized that, Janine, if something happens to your husband, you and the children are going to have a bit of a challenge. Well, I accepted the challenge. And do you know, it was so beautiful how people crossed my path along the way with, well, what is your unique selling proposition? What's your tagline? What are you offering? Who are you? Where would you like to go? What is your future self? And as I learned to ask the better question, as I learned more about myself, I did it afraid anyway. Landing pages, oh, my giddy aunt. Am I coming to terms with those? Absolutely. And do you know, I came to understand that sometimes the fear was less of the technology and more about being seen, about the witch wound, the tall poppy syndrome, and places and spaces that where, what if people see the real, authentic me? Will they judge me? I've learned So what? Because that person is judging in themselves what they're judging within me. Very humbling, because guess what? When I step forward to judge anybody or a situation, I got to pick up my journal and say, what inside of me am I judging through working with them? This is feeling the fear, stepping within, exploring what it would take to have courage, and moving forward anyway. As we step forward, we build competence. As we build this competence, we start gaining ways of creating that confidence. We start working with things that are more aligned with our values and more aligned with what we value. For me, this was a particularly interesting journey because I was under the impression that family was my value. Actually, it was my children and my husband that I valued. I lumped it under family, whereas it was more specific, more focused for me. For me, peace and truth were values. They are values. The way I valued them then is very different to the way I value them now. I get to honor those values. I get to understand those values, and I get to use my courage to say, oh, maybe I'm unavailable to do this to people, rather than saying yes and having my peace taken away from me. The truth is, yes, I can do it. The challenge is it would go against my value of peace. And it was to have the courage to say, you know what? Please, can you find someone else? This is out of alignment with my schedule. It's out of alignment because rest is an important part of my schedule. So I was telling a truth and I was still maintaining my peace. My question is, what are you being asked to keep and what are you being asked to release? Yes, we get to know who we are now rather than who we were so that we can answer that. Things that I would have loved to do, things that I would have been really happy to do in the past, I've been able to release now because I understand I've moved beyond it, that maybe I was doing it through fear, people pleasing, and that it was appropriate for me to do because it was part of my growth journey, my growth path. It takes us taking stock of ourselves every 3 to 6 months to see, is this still aligned? Is this part of an old belief system or is it part of my belief system in the now? And then to have the courage to say, thank you. I see you and I'm choosing to stop you because after I've observed you, I see that it's time to part ways. We thank whatever the belief was, we thank whatever the situation was or is, and say bye, hey, bye to it and allow it to fade away. We then get to integrate what will help us in our journey. And this is a fundamental reason we get to tap into the energy of our future self. Because as we tap into the energy of our future self, we can see what is no longer relevant to our self of now, and we let go of our past self to be relevant in the now, to have the courage to develop into our future self. You may have noticed we keep coming back to courage. It takes choice, creating competence in areas and choosing to take on up-leveling and skills so that we can become the energy of our future self in the now, because then that energy draws us towards it and then starts meeting us halfway. And this is when we get to accomplish things. And it takes having the courage to release what is holding us back, to see the fear and to step forward anyway, as we replace the fear with, well, not even replace it. We realize that it's there and we say, it's okay, come along with us for the journey. And we get to reinvent ourselves. We get to realize that we create that reality and we begin to make it real, that what we've chosen as our future self. Who would we like to be? Where would we like to be? How would we like to be dressed? Who would we like to be friends with? Where would we like to be friends with ourselves? And where are we loving ourselves enough to honor our values, honor the other person, and still move forward anyway in that energy of the future self as we create the reality now? When I work with people who have health challenges because their body's speaking to them, yes, we go and explore where is the inner child feeling wounded rather than creative. Deal with it, let it go, and invite the inner child to come with so that we can play in the now and help that inner child to grow, to feel honored, to feel accepted. With that, we get to explore, am I living in purpose, on purpose, to move towards my purpose through creating the competence to have the courage to create what it is we're looking for? Deep questions, and it's to understand the energy. We can ask a question in fear, and we can ask a question in curious intention so that we can grow rather than remain in that fear. So this is one of the reasons I ask people to avoid why, because many times when we ask that why question, we're asking it in a heavy, absolutely disabling energy, an energy that pulls us down, rather than asking in an energy of, well, what would be better here? Who would be better to help me here? And where would I really like to go with this? So for now, ask the questions, avoid why, avoid but, because this will help us to put a fear next to us rather than around us, and step forward to expand that comfort zone, to stretch within our comfort zone. So we still feel safe, we're still stretching, and we're still going a little bit beyond what is comfortable for us step by step. Because what this does is it builds capacity. Things that I'm doing now, there's not a chance I would have been able to do them 9 years ago because I was in a fear of it. I hadn't yet developed the skills for it, and the capacity was sincerely diminished. And as I've grown, I've allowed myself to say, you know what if I try this? What if I do this? Well, that didn't work, so that's okay. Let's go and find what does work. The best was, and I have shared this story many times before, I had done several I'd used a microphone, and I had done several videos for a course I was doing and podcast recordings. And when I came to play it back, I couldn't hear it. So I deleted them. And then the one day I was absolutely determined I was unavailable to delete something that I'd recorded because I felt the energy was right, the authenticity was right, and that it was just some of the best work I had shared. And I went, you know what? There's got to be a way I can hear this. And that still voice of intuition said to me, Janine, check the settings of what the speakers are. Oh, my soul. How embarrassing. All this time, all that work I had deleted because the sound was there, and because it was on a speaker that wasn't there, I couldn't hear it. When I put it onto the laptop speakers, I could hear it as clear as a bell and beautifully. How does life get any better than this? And the point of that story is many times things are available for us to hear. We have forgotten to turn the correct speaker on, the speaker of our heart, the speaker of choosing to build the courage, the capacity, and the competency to do things. And when we're able to switch from the speaker of fear to the speaker of let's do it and let's move forward with it, wow, we get to hear our intuition at a deeper level. We get to understand what we can get rid of, what we release, what we choose to keep, and what we choose to grow in. The challenges we accept and the challenges that help make us stronger as we release the resistance and move forward, building that capacity, building that confidence, and creating a life we love. And that's what personal leadership is about. It's about seeing the belief systems that have grown obsolete, stepping into new ones so that we can create a day by day, moment by moment, a life that we enjoy, rather than living in one of despair, distrust. We can learn to trust ourselves, hear that inner voice. And when I work with clients and help them with personal leadership, I use the mindset alchemy principles of know intuitively, hear that voice, switch the speaker on, the correct speaker on so you can hear it. Choose consciously because you're hearing. Consciously choose your thinking, your feelings. Work from your heart as well as from logic and from instinct, from inspiration. Allow yourself to choose inspiration and to choose yourself and to choose your purpose and your values, because then you get to create intentionally from the field of intention, from the field of the energy of your future self. And as you are able to create intentionally, you set your targets, you allocate the tasks, you know what your goals are, you know what your dream and your vision is, because you've tapped into your future self. And this allows us to be effortlessly. Yes, we get to put the work in. We just do it in a way that is much more aligned, much more authentic, and brings what we're looking to create around in a more pleasant way, in a less hustle way, and a more, yes, let's do the work with inspiration, with intuition, and with a deep knowingness that we are led and guided to it as we co-create with source energy, with other people, with ourselves, to experience what we came here to experience, so that we have experience and experiences to know what to let go of, what to keep, and where to move to. If you'd like to know more about working with me, check out the sounding board session link in the show notes and let's chat. In the meantime, use your journal, use your time for stillness, and use your time of meditation to help you understand what you're being asked to release at the moment so you can replace it, rejuvenate yourself, and to move forward in a beautiful way of creating a reality that, yes, it may have hiccups, speed bumps, and mountains to climb, and that's okay, because you will be guided and helped along the way in so many beautiful ways. Have a good day. Bye-bye.